good afternoon, and welcome to Guided Meditations and More. My name is Ade Richardson, and this is normally at 8 a.m. Eastern Time daily guided meditations. And as some of you know, I've been doing interviews, hosting interviews here lately with spiritual teachers, seekers. I've had professors on, different various types of people that share a little bit of their journey on the spiritual path. So today I have the great pleasure to be here with Swami Sadashiva Tirtha. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Pretty good, yes.
Okay, welcome, Swami. Thank you for joining us. So let's begin with reading your bio, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, Swami Sadashiva Tirtha was born a psychic medium, and shamans in the Amazon rainforest confirmed he is also a born shaman and healer. As a child, he had disturbing visions at night that ultimately came true in his life. This led him on a spiritual seeking path. In 1988, he became a TM meditation, which stands for Transcendental Meditation, teacher. In 1988, he went to India and met his guru, who recognized him as a Swami in 1990. Swami wrote the international #1 bestseller, the Ayurvedic Encyclopedia, 30,000 copies, and presented to the White House Alternative Medicine Commissions. He also was the first American to earn a Doctor of Science in Ayurvedic research. Moving to the country, Swami deepened his psychic, medium, and energy healing gifts. He studied with renowned psychic mediums at the preeminent Lilydale Assembly. Now Swami simply lives in his flow, in nature, healing horses and guiding some people, and mostly celebrating in this new age of joy that officially begins December 21st, 2020. Swami's message is simple. It is simply joy, joy, joy.
Joy, joy, joy.
Okay, so let's start. One of the things that I was curious about is when I first read your bio is, and maybe we could start here, is you mentioned you had a disturbing vision. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I must have been I'm guessing about 10 years old, 8 years old, somewhere in there. And I would have dreams at night of rows of couples, men and women, husband and wife, rows of them, in line. And then I'd be in front of them and they'd pick up masks of my parents and put them over their face and say, "Hey, we're your parents." And then they'd give the masks to the next people and they'd come up and they go, "We're your parents." And that went on for not every night, but it was a recurring, I call it a prophecy because that's what comes out of my mouth. I didn't know it at the time. It was just disturbing. And then fast forward to probably 8 years later, I was like 17, 16, the Vietnam War had started. And then my dreams changed to in the dream, I was coming home from the Vietnam War as if I was a soldier, but this was just a dream. And when I came home to my house, my parents had moved and didn't tell me where they went. So again, another weird, sad, upsetting experience. Yeah. And then one day we're all in the car in real life, and there was a funeral parlor at the red light in front of us, and all of a sudden my vision swirled black, and then I just started crying and saying, "I don't want you to die." And then when I could see again, my parents' eyes were all bugged out and go, "What are you talking about?" And then they were in a car crash about within the year. They were on vacation and they passed in the car crash.
Wow. And they were the only ones in the car?
Yes.
Yeah. And how old were you at the time?
I was just about 18, just about turning 18.
Yeah. Mm.
So that was like, that really set off my spiritual quest, like, because that was 1972, okay? And the only thing we knew, there was not like yoga everywhere like it is now, and there was no internet, obviously. The only thing we knew about meditation, to bring it right to your show topic, is that the Beatles went to India to meditate, and that's all we knew. So, but here was something that was unexplainable to me. How would I know this? Who was telling me this? How is it even possible? Nothing that I would have believed. And so it was right at that time there, Star Trek was on TV talking about ESP and things like that.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit about the meditation. So I was like a dry sponge, just eager to soak in anything I could to learn what happened to me, how I knew all that.
So and so that, how did you deal with that that trauma? At the time, the being 18 years old, and I believe you were just getting ready to go off to. Were you getting ready to go off to college, or?
I actually started college a half year early, so I already got my feet wet there. And but how do you deal with that? Just as best you can, I suppose. Some part of me was rebellious and experimented with recreational drugs. Part of me was angry. Part of me was devastated. But this thing that saved me, then got me out of that mindset, if you will, was, what is this thing? What is meditation? What is enlightenment? And it was more than just a concept to me, because somebody was talking to me for years and probably preparing me so that I could survive that tragedy.
When you say someone was talking to you, is it like someone from another realm, or?
That's it. Who was giving me those dreams, and who was telling me these things? And I had dreams that just other, in real life, how did I know that was going to happen? I didn't even know what I was talking about. And these things just come out of you. Just bizarre stuff,
Yeah. And you hear, and I can relate a little bit, not to that extent, but having tragedies and just pain in general push me more in the direction to see what the deeper, what is below the surface, what's there. And you also had the added, those experiences before this tragedy happened.
Right.
Yeah. And where did you go next on your journey? Did you get right into? Well, I know that you said that you experimented with drugs and things like that.
I did that in a spiritual way, actually. I did that for self-realization. There was a book called Be Here Now by Ram Dass.
Yes.
There was a series of books. There was only two at the time. Carlos Castaneda's Don Juan series. And that's how far back it was. And then there was a third, a trilogy. And so I was considering all of these recreational options for spiritual development. And then college campus, there was a lecture on the TM. And then when I went there, and everything the guy said was like, that's what I want to know about. That's what I want to know about. And then I spent the next 5 years. I switched colleges from TV and film into meditation, and became a meditation teacher, and spent the next 5 years basically meditating, levitating, doing all sorts of meditation types of experiences around the world with them.
Is this around the time? Was this before you took the journey to India?
Yes. Yeah. That was from like 75 to 80. Then Spirit has a way of integrating me between the mystical and the earthly, the 3D and the multidimensional. And so I felt it was time to come back, and I got back into the TV world. which really didn't sit well with me. But for 5 years, I was in the city doing that. And then I said, all right, I started to discover Ayurvedic herbalism, Ayurvedic medicine, Vedic astrology, and started teaching that, practicing that. I mean, and then I said, yeah, I'm going to go to India now. And so that's when I met my guru.
Can you say who your guru was, or?
Yeah, his name was Swami Narayan Tirtha.
Oh, okay.
And he had an ashram in Benares and also in Uttarkashi in the Himalayas. So I spent most of my time in the Himalayas with him because it was more nature. It was right on the Ganges River.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds the idyllic situation there. But how is it actually being there? I suppose it takes some time adjusting to not having, I'm assuming you didn't have the same kind of worldly things that you might have been used to. And it could have just been a natural sort of, thing for you, but.
Well, it was a little more sparse. The hardest part was really the water. The water, you had to be careful what you drank.
Yes. Yeah.
And
there's always something.
There's always something. So there's one of my YouTube channels. I have a video of my whole trip from Delhi to Rishikesh to Uttarkashi, and
really. So you tape? Was it on did you tape it on film or was it cassette or
videotapes? Yeah,
like mini DVs or something, or
little.
Those probably weren't even out, or
DV8s or something like that. They were little cassettes. They were, yeah. And so then I got them transferred into format and uploaded them. I think I even have the birthplace of Krishna. I think I may have video of that from a later. That was years and years later. I went there.
Yeah. So that's on your YouTube.
I'll give you that link later. It's because I think it's called Golden Era Celebration. I think that's the name of that site. I don't use that much, but that's where it all is.
Yeah.
I'll get to that link later.
So I'm not sure like where we go from now, but one thing that's been coming up for me is, and I think there's no coincidence, like every guest touches on an area that I find within myself and others. I don't want to make it all about me, but that's my narcissistic side. Can't help coming up at times. But when you talk about joy, I feel like I'm, so much. One thing is I want to know, I seek certainty. I want to know what's going to happen next. It's always got to do this, eat the oatmeal every day, have the coffee on the left side, the water on the right side. Anything changes, it like adds to this stress. So the feeling I got from you is that your message about the importance of being playful, being joyful.
Yeah.
And for those that, for whatever reason, I'm not going to judge my desire to control, but for whatever reason, there's this desire to control, and also that with skepticism, or just so that's another. There's the skepticism, and then there is being kind of bound by habits, or feeling like we're bound by habits, old habits, like I forget who said it. It might have been Einstein or someone else, that the mind that created the problem cannot solve the problem.
Right, that's an Einstein quote.
Yeah.
What did you mean by what did you say? You didn't say sarcasm. You said you used a word in there that like you don't disbelief word. I forgot what the word you used.
Skepticism.
Yeah. So what do you mean by how is skepticism coming for you?
There's always some doubt, and I've been on the spiritual path for some time, and I feel like whatever higher powers out there, whatever is there, gives me messages very strong, energetic messages, downloads, all of these things. And after all of that, I'm like, maybe it's just like some brain, and it could be, there's all, I always, the mind focuses on the one thing, and it feels like it's connected to a belief that nothing good ever happens for me, or I'm not good enough, or like something that is at the core that it uses kind of confirmation bias. Okay, you see, that's not gonna, that's why it's not gonna work out for me. And I know there's a lot, I'm just sharing this because I know there's a lot of people out there that share the same.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, it's always there. Partly when you catch it and you go, well, nothing's worked out for me. Well, let's see. I have food, clothing, and shelter. I have somebody who loves me. I have some people who I love. I've had this experience. I've had that experience. I had a guru. I got to spend time with him in India. I live in paradise now. On and on and on. So when you can catch it, you can prove to yourself. And the times we can't do that, just because the emotional moment, but we're in the moment. Main thing is we don't stop. We don't give up. Sorry, so we may stop for a day or a few days. We may get burnt out. We may fall on our face, but we start to crawl again. We learn to crawl. We learn to walk again. We learn to walk. And we keep going, following our heart, following our dreams, following our calling. I think it's just natural.
So,
but in terms of, go ahead.
What's just coming up for me is it sounds like is part of it being able to surrender to or say yes to whatever is, I mean, inwardly, not that we need to condone external circumstances, but.
Well, there's a lot in that question. In terms of the personal stuff, I find that when something bad happens to me, which means something I don't want to happen, something I don't think should be happening.
Yeah.
Then I say as best I can, as often as I can, thank you for this blessing. And whenever I'll figure out what's in the blessing, what the blessing is, but thank you for that blessing. Because the loss of my parents freed me up to follow my spiritual path 100%.
Mm.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but probably I would not have gone down this path in the way I have if they were still alive. So I had trouble more recently. I had trouble with my phones. I'm driving up to half hour to the phone company and say, well, I wonder what blessing is going to come out of this trouble. And I spent some time with my friend in his office, and I learned a lot of really good stuff, and we had a wonderful afternoon. So, so that's that part of it. There's always something good. Now, if in the context of the new age, the age of joy, the age of celebration, anything that's coming out of us that's not that, I like to believe it as it's coming out. Like if you have an infection, it has to be the pus, and then it has to come out, and then you're healthy. So if there's a story, you start here, then there's trouble, and then is a resolution. Most people stop at the trouble, go, see what happens to me? This always happens to me. Well, but that's only, act one. Stay around for act two.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like the analogy that if you live in a messy room, but it's pitch dark and you've never had light in it, as the turn on a little bit of light, you're going to notice some of the mess, and you may think, wait a minute, where is that? But it's always been there, that mess, and then a little bit more, and
Beautiful.
and something came up when you talked about the cell phone incident. I reacted a little bit because
So, so hi.
it's those situations where I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna die. That's what it feels like. It feels like and maybe you could speak to this because it seems like some of it is tied into the survival mechanism. Even though it's not intellectually, I might be able to say, okay, it's not really a big deal, but on some level, it feels like I'm in the jungle and there's a tiger chasing me. So something feels threatened in that same way. So what, like when that, if that comes up for you, or if any, if you work with any students or anything, and that sort of physical, and maybe this happens a lot with people that have had trauma that gets activated and triggered. What would you tell someone in that situation?
Yeah, this is a great question. This brings up your concept or your discussion before of habits. We all have some sort of PTSD. Now, we all haven't been to war, but some of us had childhood traumas. Loss of parents would be one, getting beaten or worse. Um, Social, what do they call that? Peer pressure, you know, past life karmas and things like that. Limiting beliefs are all are all where we froze in time at the end of Act One, and we didn't get to Act Two. And so, or to use your analogy, we turned the lights on a little bit and said, "Oh my God, this place is a mess. I don't want to be here," or "I got this far," and then we go off to heaven for till the next time. So it, again, the whole thing is the word flow. Let things flow as much as you can, as best you can. I used to try to slow everything down and stop things to analyze them. What's wrong with this situation? But then I'm stuck with what's wrong, and if I say, well, and I believe we're 99.9% divine and one little speck to grow more divine, which is eternal, so it never ends, or deep, divine love. And so something is wrong. If we said something wrong, maybe it was only socially wrong. Maybe we were channeling something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why did I say the telephone? Why did that come to me? Because I heard it in my head, talk about the telephone, and that triggered something in you. So think of life as divine, that we're really basically pretty good people, not pretty awful people. We're basically pretty much have the intention to do good and be joyful. And if somebody else, and now this comes to the other thing you said, whatever's going on in the world, as bad, as harmful, as heart-wrenching as something may be, particularly these days, how we react to it is our choice. We don't have to deny it's there. And unless we have the ability to literally do something to change it, the best we could do is keep ourselves, use that as fodder to not react to.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, the way that you put it, the natural flow and tending to kind of sometimes the habits to slow things down. And even like for me, it even goes to the point of not even breathing. Like it becomes such a physical sort of thing, and obviously that's going to create more stress, and the body's like, oh, okay, things are really bad now, so and there was something else I wanted to ask you, but I forgot.
Like
It'll come to me.
you see a stream and you go, what a beautiful stream. Let me stop it so I could look at it. But then it's just a puddle. It's not a stream anymore. You don't hear it gurgling. You don't hear it singing. You don't see it flowing. It doesn't get fresh water. And breathing is the spirit. You know, in shamanism, the shamans, they're always breathing into you. They're breathing life into you. And every time we inhale, we're inhaling spirit. And every time we exhale, we're sharing spirit.
Yeah, and you know, the breathing is something I always took for granted. You hear it a lot, you know, just breathe, or put your attention on your breathing. When I'm in the middle of feeling triggered, and the habit, probably from childhood, because usually children, if you know, if someone yells at them, and you know, they don't know how to handle the big emotions, and they don't have the conceptual framework, sometimes the best that they can do as a protective thing is to repress the emotion and kind of hold the breath. And that sort of habit, for a lot of people, seems to continue on, you know, throughout life.
Hold the breath and hold yourself, because I'm not going to let that happen to me again.
Exactly.
Now you've got a habit which becomes a block in your life at some point. Now it may get you through a tough time, you know, however I responded to get me through the initial time of my loss. But at a certain point in your life, you've achieved something in your life, and you get to relax a little bit, and you go, you know what, I can let me look at this issue now. Let me look at that issue now that I didn't get to look at when I was a kid. Let me look at the things that have blocked me, that are blocking me now from my childlike innocence and joy.
Yeah, joy. So I know maybe this doesn't all sound like leading up to joy, but there is, I do want to get to that, because then, you know, it goes back to that sort of doubt and skepticism and old way of dealing with things. So now we've learned to, you know, let's say we've learned to put our attention on whatever our emotions are, kind of, to as much as we can surrender to whatever's going on, or be willing to surrender. Not that we can just say, okay, I surrender, and you know, at least be willing to open to something unexpected, you know, and to that flow. And so then we get to this. What I find that can happen is that can just become a thing. So it's just continuing to do this work, and that becomes like almost a way to control in and of itself. And so to step off, you know, into that joy just feels like that place of uncertainty. I know it sounds strange to say that, you know, but it for me, it comes you know, spontaneously, you know, at times. A lot of times with our kids it may come, or with animals. I have an easier time of relaxing, being playful with animals and kids, and I find that a lot of people do. But just to be able to cultivate it within yourself, is there like a simple practice that you do, or something that you can offer?
Well, you know, the neuroscientists say that whatever we believe becomes reality. And if we just pretend to smile, if we just go like that, we trick the brain into going, oh, he's happy, let's secrete the happy hormones. It's scientifically proven. So now imagine yourself, you just, like, I don't know, if you need something, look at the sunshine, or look at the tree, or look at your dog, and look at your kid and go, joy, joy, joy. Oh, try it. Just see how you feel. Try it now.
Okay.
That's all right.
Okay. Let's just trying to find something to look at.
Or picture your dog, or your child, or your wife, or your.
Yeah. I got something here. Joy, joy, joy. Yeah. It's my kombucha. It does bring me joy. I do love it.
And it sets us up. You know, if we do something for 30 days, 27 days, 21 days, whatever it is, neuroscience says we create a new habit in our brain. And so if you look for something that's joyful, I have a book called 21 Days of Joy. And each day there's something to think about, to be joyful. And if you do it for 21 days, you now have a habit of joy.
Yes, I know
There.
about that book. So I actually just got it. So folks, it's on Amazon. If you get the Kindle, it's only, I think, $1. You can't do better than that. And
That's right there.
yeah. So let's see.
So the joy consciousness, enlightenment is, I believe, my experience is it's pure joy. Now there's levels of joy, just like there's levels of ocean. There's waves, high waves, and calmness. There's peace, and then it rises up into joy. But consciousness, I believe, my experience is that is joy itself. And the more we tap into that joy, that's joy for no reason. That's joy because that's who we are. We are spirit. Spirit is light. Look at the angels. They're so joyful. They're so playful. That's our essence. Now, if you're joyful and you get a new computer that helps you, I want to go back to your thing about the flow and the process of going with the moment and things like that. It's good up to the point, as long as the flow, the direction of the flow is towards self-realization, to knowing who you are. So if somebody says, hey dude, let's go out and do something that's against our happiness, against who we are, I wouldn't count that as, I'm going to just go with that flow. Let's go away from the flow, And the same thing, if I'm supposed to have kombucha to help my digestion, and one day I'm just tired of it, I need a break, I'm not going to force myself to do it, because the flow is saying I'm not feeling joyful with that right now. So you always need a goal. You always need that target, and that target is more joy, more divine love, more playfulness. And in that way, the river can flow and twist and turn, and you don't always know where you're going to wind up around the bend, but that's part of the adventure. So really the GPS is just, am I in my joy? And sometimes, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so I'll stop there.
Well, yeah, that was well said, and about setting the GPS, and we do have to, go off the highway and go to get something to eat or fill up on some gas, but we're still going in the same direction, and yeah. So where do we go now? Where do we go? I don't know where we go.
So this is part two of what I was going to say. Sometimes that joy, that river, that flow leads us to this moment of, I don't know where I am. I don't know if in my flow. And that's okay too, because that's when we are so in it that you could say we're one with everything in that moment, and we have nothing to measure it by. And oftentimes people think, I'm off, I'm lost, I'm whatever. And just accept that moment of not knowing, because not knowing, really, to go back to one of the first things you said, is I'm sharing my experience with you, but I don't know anything. I don't know things are going to be this way. Yes, I like to eat my Ayurvedic food plan. I need to exercise because I feel way much better when I do that. I do everything is a meditation basically, but sometimes I'll need to go for a walk. Sometimes I'll need to lay down to meditate. Sometimes I'll play the guitar to meditate. And I lost where I was going with all that, but something about habits. Anyway, so there.
When you talked about just being in that place of the unknown,
right.
And what I felt, my whole body just kind of dropped into this deep sort of joy, this aliveness, that this presence. And I think that's what I feel like you're talking about as well. That natural aliveness that's inherent within us and within life itself.
See, when we're totally lost and we have no measurement, even our GPS says there's no reception here, that's the best place to be, because that is pure consciousness. That's pure awareness. That's unbounded soul, spirit, self. You know, there's people talk about, I'm a spiritual person. I do yoga. I drink kombucha. I help the unfortunate. All beautiful things, but they're all, you're defining your spirituality based on something external.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, those are all beautiful things. But the moment you can just be beyond everything, non-material, and go, wow, I'm alive. I'm in that joy, eternal joyness. I'm home. I'm at the source. That's the goal. It doesn't preclude the others. The others help you get there. But a lot of times people forget there's something beyond that. It's really abstract, but
yeah, it is, and yeah, it's right here. You know that. You know, and I feel like it seems to me that the mind doesn't really like that so much, or that sort of uncertainty. You know, neuroscientists, you know, like Lotto, talks about how the mind, the brain seeks certainty.
right.
And not, it doesn't seek reality. It just seeks to know what's useful, so that, you know, it could for survival. You know, so it's always seeking certainty, and it doesn't like uncertainty. But what he was saying is, it's in that uncertainty that you know, more possibilities and infinite potential opens up. And he also said, to one of the tools we have to enter that uncertainty is play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Play, pretend, mistakes, stepping out of your comfort zone, not being okay to look foolish, so to speak, think what other people think about us.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
But the thing about the uncertainty is, certainty for survival. The more we get used to that state of infinity, pure unbounded consciousness, that even when the world dissolves, even when the universe and creation dissolves, according to mystical traditions around the world, there is still pure consciousness. It's just unmanifest.
Yeah.
So we never die. We are pure consciousness. So the more we tap into that, the more we are truly surviving in a place that never dies.
Yeah.
And trying to save face in the world, or I'll be happy with my next paycheck raise, or my next book, or those things are, without the spiritual part, they become very empty and hollow. So they're good if, especially again, if you can stay humble and you know they're all helping you get to everything, good and bad, is grist for the mill. So
yeah, so everything can be, there's a saying, all things work for the good. I think it's in the Bible. So yeah. And you know, that's been a sort of intuitively, I've known that, you know, whenever something bad, or, you know, quote unquote bad, has happened, there's always this expectation, oh, something good is gonna come now, you know, there's a reason for this, you know, rather than, and I just find I've been fortunate with this, there's not much time that I spend in, why is this happening to me?
right,
You know,
right.
because that would bring me into like a place of despair and hopelessness, and
if you're really truthful about it, not just you, me, and everybody, you'll see good things happen only to you too. Like, I was in a supermarket once, and I was in the line, and then I was like second or third in line, and this lady opened the cash register next to me, and she looks at me. She goes, "Come on over."
Yeah.
And I go like, and then I just heard Spirit say, "Go, this is for you." Okay, so I could go, how come all these good things happen to me?
Yeah.
But there's a mix of good and bad things, and you can up the good stuff by doing more good stuff. Pay it forward. I remember once I was sitting waiting for a cab, and I was in front of like some shopping center, and I decided to make use of the time. Anybody who walked past me, I would put a cloud of joy in front of them and watch them walk through it. And they go, that's my intention. I'm going to put joy out in front and let them walk into it. And why not? If I go to a store and I see the cashier is not having a good day, I just start sending her love.
Yeah.
And then when I get up to her, then I just chat and tell a joke, something until she starts laughing. And by the end, she's smiling and all that. So that's the karma thing. The more things you do to make people happier, lighter, more playful, more joyful, I think the more it comes back to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it seems like a part of that also, at least for me, requires stepping out of myself in a way, stepping out into that uncertainty. Like you said, sometimes taking a chance to be silly or feel embarrassed because you don't know how it's going to come across, what this person's going to say. Maybe you won't say the right thing, all of these things, which, for me could, these thoughts of why not to do it, what could happen may lead me to just seek what's comfort and what's known and things are on that path. So
I told a client of mine recently who's operated like many people out of fear. I don't do things because I'm afraid of any, you name it, afraid of what people will say, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of failing, afraid of whatever. And they really developed to the point where, well, there was crises, and they stepped up and managed the crisis effortlessly with God's help, praying to God, thy will be done. And then afterwards I said, look how well you did. So now you did this well in crisis, and the crisis came because you didn't take action for so much time. And so crisis is opportunity to take action is going to come if we choose to be proactive or wait until it's kind of too late and the crisis comes to us.
Yeah.
And so why not now, knowing, look how well you've done in crisis, why not avoid the crisis and just take actions more often?
Well, that's a good point. What would you say to someone who is dealing with indecision and doesn't know if it's the right thing to do? There's all of the the intellectual mind, the conscious brain is thinking, well, these are I don't see any path forward.
Right.
But there's a feeling that and maybe it's a subtle voice that's saying, well, you go ahead, take the leap.
Beautiful. Yeah, we have to be active because action is how we learn. Otherwise we're just intellectuals with theories in our head. And even what works for me, I could tell you, but you'll have to follow your own way, because the way you learn, the way you move, the speed you move at, where everything is going to be different for each person if we're going to be truly authentic. So I think, but action is, we have to take action because otherwise nothing gets, not that something has to get done, but we're in this world to create a better world for ourselves, for others. Whether you love to paint, if you love to paint. If you love to, see an artist just walk past, so that came in my head.
Yeah.
If you love research, you research. If you love to be social, be social. But if you It's that old joke about the psychic who says to the person, "I see you're going to find a boyfriend this month." She goes, "Well, I don't know. It didn't happen." "Well, what did you do?" "Nothing. I stayed at home." "Oh, well, how are they going to find you? You know, you got to go out and take action.
Yeah.
You got to contribute. You got to be it's life. You got to engage in life in some way.
Yeah.
So
And
some action is, even if the action is going to be wrong, at least it's going to be 1% wrong, and you'll learn so much, and then it will just be feedback, and it won't be. It's not. It's only, it's the end of chapter 1. It's not the end of your life. So take action.
yeah, that's a good point. And it one of the things that I think block me from taking action at times is just the comfort and just the not knowing how things are going to turn out, and but I took action on this Facebook meditation page, and we just started off doing guided meditations, and then I thought, well, maybe I could host interviews.
There you go.
And the next thought was like, you don't know anything about that. You've never hosted an interview before. And I just started doing it, and I don't know where it's going to lead. I enjoy doing it, and this will go on to something else or whatever else comes down the line. But
You don't know what's around the bend as you float down the river.
yeah.
Enjoy the whole path.
Yeah. And there was something else that you said that it now slips my mind. I'm just forgetting all of these points. Authenticity. That's what it was. So that's a word that's used, thrown around a lot, and I'm not always clear exactly. Different people, take it to mean different things. And what would you define authenticity as?
Authenticity is saying, I've got to do this thing this way at this time, even if everybody else gets upset. Oh, we won't see you. We miss you. Don't do that. Nobody else does that. Don't do that because people on that side of the political spectrum or believe that or believe that religion. Whatever it is, you got to do something for yourself, for your calling, for your... like for me, I'll give you an example. In my astrology chart, the second house is the house of... it's one of the houses of making money. It's a livelihood from your own hands, your own work. Others come from windfalls, and others come from stock market and things like that. Well, I happen to have something in the second house that's more auspicious, easier for me. So it's easier. It comes more natural for me to be involved in the process that earns my living. And the more I discover that, and the more I discover the way, being a monk, even though I'm kind of pretty much out of the box monk, I still mostly do best researching, discovering, and doing things from home, from the ashram, from my couch. And as I start to find things that do that for me, then I say, okay, I love everybody, but I got to go do this now,
Yeah.
And I got to shut out 90% of the stuff I used to do because it's just getting in the way. And so the moment you get a sense, it's another example is you meet the right woman, suddenly you just put a lot of stuff aside. You get a kid and you put a lot more stuff aside. The things that mean the most to your heart are the things you're going to you discover your authenticity as you let go of the things that just don't serve you anymore. They may have served you in the past.
Yeah, and I guess that takes some courage, because you may come against people that take it as, oh, you're going against us, or things like that.
If they don't get it, then how close can you really have been?
Yeah.
And better yet, you'll meet a better crowd of people that are open to, not that they even believe what you believe in, but that they're open to having people believe have a free questioning mind and exploration.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because part of the thing is sometimes I may not even have the path or the vision isn't totally clear. So someone else may have reasons why it's not the right one. They may sound very intellectual and give like bullet point reasons why this can't work out. There's this feeling of, but it feels like it's the right thing, but I just don't have the language. I can't express it, and sometimes I may, doubt myself, and, many people may doubt themselves just for that reason, and then not take that action based on that. And like you said, maybe part of it is knowing that you may make mistakes, along the way, giving some room for that as well.
And then the other side of it is also true. What if it's all so good that you become more alone at one with spirit? That everything is so amazing that you're really starting to understand spirit in that moment. Oh, that's wonderful, but also it's a bit daunting.
It's that feeling when there's this like kind of utter connection with spirit. There comes with it sometimes a feeling of being one with everything, but also a really huge feeling of being alone, and that can feel scary for some people. Just
yeah. I think that's, again, it's getting used to you're in a bigger playing. You're playing bigger. You're getting used to the. Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. That's kind of what that is. You're out there on your own. Nobody, no thoughts. It's just you going with your inner calling.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So let's, we're coming up to the hour mark, so we should end soon. But I was wondering, I did hear a practice that you did. I think let me see, what was the name of it? It was something about you would do positive affirmations, envisioning someone you love and putting attention on the heart.
Yeah, I do something that was shown to me, which I call instant heart meditation or something like that. Instant, I don't even know what it's called anymore. But basically, yeah, we could do that if you like.
Yeah. So whoever's joining, why don't we all do this together?
This is a meditation for this age of everything's instant. We have instant oatmeal, we have Instagram. We need instant meditation because sometimes we can't stop for 20 minutes or an hour and meditate, and we can't close our eyes, but we can meditate driving or in the train. You think about the issue that's most challenging you. It could be a pain, it could be a health issue, it could be an emotional issue, career, and the level of stress that it's causing you or pain. Give it a number from 1 to 10. So if your arthritis is really painful, it's a 7. If you just had a breakup, your pain in your heart is at a 9. Whatever. If things are going pretty good and you just whatever, you give it that a 3. So when you have that number, now I want you to think about the person or the pet or the place or the music or the kombucha, whatever you love the most in the world. It could be God, whatever. Think about that and put your hand on your heart. And as you think about that or who gives you the most love, inhale and feel that love expanding your heart of that person or place. Or simply just inhale and feel your heart becoming full with that love. And as you exhale, you're releasing everything that's not that love. That love stays there. Okay, we do that again. Same thing. Think about the person you love. Hand on the heart. Inhale nice and deep. Breathe in that love. Feel your heart expanding. Feel becoming lighter, maybe joyful. And exhaling, just letting go of everything that's not the joy, not the love. And then one more time, I want you to see yourself acting with somebody related to your issue. And as you're acting, you're seeing the love that's there for you, that's unconditional. And as you breathe in now, see yourself succeeding in that action and feeling the unconditional love in your heart as you inhale. And as you exhale, just you feel the joy is overwhelming, the peace is overwhelming, and everything else you just exhale. So that was three parts. It could be 3 different meditations, or it could be one meditation. So how do you feel?
That was beautiful.
And you think now back to that, whatever you're rated, the number was, and what was their initial rating, and what is it now?
It was about a 7, and after doing that exercise, it was about a 2.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, 1 or 2, I say you can live with that, or if you want, you can do it another time or 2 until it goes to 0.
Yeah.
You can do that before you go into a meeting.
That's
6 seconds. Takes longer to explain it than you do it.
Yeah. It's a great practice, and I like the idea of having something instant. We need something for in between these Facebook and Instagram, and when we put the phone down for a minute.
Oh God. What am I going to do for 3 seconds?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a 3-second one?
No, I'm a member of something called Toastmasters, which is a public speaking and leadership club. It's an international club, but it teaches you how to speak publicly. And one of the things you learn is before you speak, even in front of everybody while they're watching you, take a breath, center yourself.
Yeah.
And so right in that moment, you could just put your hand on your chest, think of who you love, take a deep breath, and then boom, you're in joy and say, hey, everybody.
Yeah, I've heard of that club. I actually have a friend that is in that. So he has a lot of good things to say about it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. This has been a lovely discussion. Just feeling your presence really resonated with me today, and was very soothing, and felt like I was,
It's a satsang. That's what satsang is.
Yeah.
Discussion of spiritual things.
Well, thank you. And I'm just going to do a quick closing announcement. So again, this was Guided Meditations and More. My name is Ade Richardson, and we're having a conversation with Swami Sadashiva Tirtha, and otherwise known as the Orange Cowboy. And where could people, first of all, and this just, I totally forgot. Is there anything else that, anything that we missed that you feel like you wanted to talk about?
The only thing that I'm being shown right now is just to remind everybody to feel how palpable the joy is. You can call it into your life. It's in the air. It's like water is in the air, at least on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Joy is in the air. Joy is in our essence. Joy is in our soul. And you can just absorb it and make it better. And the more you do it, the more you exercise your joy muscle, the more easier it is. You can stay away from some of these spiritual abstracts. You're, like you said, you get it from your dog, you get it from your wife, you get it from your kids. You get it. Use the things in the world to bring you more joy, to uplift you.
Yeah.
And that's what they're there for. If they're used that way, they will aid us. If they're used to hurt people or be proud or something like that, then it separates us. So joy is there, and use it any way you want.
Oh, beautiful. And it's, so folks, it's there. It's your birthright, and it's free. It's free. Just like the breath. You don't have to pay anything for it. And how can people, if people do work with people or do readings or anything, let us know what you offer and how people can get in touch with you. And I'll also post whatever your website link and everything on the description of the video. So.
Thank you. Yeah. Orangecowboy.com is the easiest way to get there. And do everything from holistic health, Ayurvedic health, to energy healing, psychic mediumship, pet whispering, horses, dogs, things like that. Astrology, Vedic astrology, Western astrology, life purpose, tapping, and also all sorts of things to help you release and come into yourself with a blink of an eye.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you for taking this interview, and appreciate your time and your energy.
Having me.
Yeah, much love to you.
Same to you. Much love, joy, and light.
Take care.
Joy, joy.
Joy, joy, joy.